Most leaders want certainty before they move. But in unsteady times, people don't need you to predict the future. They need you to steady the present with honesty, faith, and purpose. Ready to grow with resilience, clarity, and confidence in leadership, career, and faith? Welcome to The Next Move. I'm Orvin Kimbrough, CEO, author, and founder of The Thriver's Path. I went from foster care to the CEO seat, and here's what I learned. Transformation doesn't start with a title. It starts with your next move. How you reframe your thinking, reclaim your agency, and rename what's possible. If you're done circling and ready to step forward, you're in the right place. Let's make your next move your best move. Welcome back to The Next Move, the podcast where we explore faith, leadership, and personal growth to help you take your next step with purpose and confidence. Folks, I'm your host, Orvin Kimbrough. I'm so grateful you are here. We have been on a roll. We have a series that we are working through. Today, I want to talk about steady leadership in unsteady times. Steady leadership in unsteady times. And this matters now because uncertainty is not slowing down. Markets shift, cultures shift, organizations stretch, families change, plans get interrupted. Leaders are being asked to make decisions with incomplete information. We're asked to hold people together when emotions are high and keep moving when the path is not fully clear. So I want to invite you to reflect on this question. How do you lead when you don't have all of the answers? Not how do you perform certainty, not how do you pretend to be fearless, but how do you lead with faith, wisdom, humility, and steadiness when the ground beneath you is moving? Because uncertainty exposes every crack in a leader's confidence. It tests your instincts. It tests your emotional discipline. It tests your clarity. And if we are honest, folks, it tests your and my faith. Here's the part most people will not tell you. Uncertainty does not care how experienced you are. It humbles every leader equally. When the pandemic hit, there were moments when I didn't have all of the answers. When markets shifted, there were moments when I was studying, I was listening, and trying to understand what was coming next. When culture evolved and organizations had to respond differently, there were moments when I had to pause. I just had to pause before I spoke. When we took risks that stretched us, there were moments when I was praying on the inside while trying to remain steady on the outside. I have had moments when I was searching, moments when I was wrestling, moments when I was asking God for wisdom because experience alone was not enough. And over time, something began to ground me. People do not need you. People don't need you to predict the future. What they need is for you to steady the present. Did you catch that? People don't need you to predict the future. They need you to steady the present. Leadership in uncertainty is not about knowing everything. It's about anchoring the room when everything feels like it's moving. The scripture that anchors me here is Isaiah 33:6. Here will be the sure foundation for your times, a rich store of salvation and wisdom and knowledge. That phrase, the sure foundation for your times, has stayed with me because Isaiah was not writing into a calm moment. He was speaking into instability, speaking into fear, threat, and uncertainty. The people needed more than information. They needed a foundation. Folks, and that is still true. In leadership, information matters, strategy matters, data matters, planning matters, but when the room is anxious, people are always asking a deeper question. Is there anything solid here? Is there anything trustworthy here? Is there anything I can stand on while everything is shifting? And for me, faith becomes that foundation. Not faith as denial, not faith as pretending things are easier than they are, but faith as a stabilizing force. Faith that helps me tell the truth without losing hope. Faith that helps me acknowledge uncertainty without surrendering responsibility. Faith that reminds me that wisdom is available even when certainty is not. That's important because some leaders confuse confidence with certainty, but confidence is not the same as certainty. Certainty says, I know exactly, I know exactly what is going to happen. Confidence says, confidence says, I know who I am. I know what I value. I know what we are called to do, and I'll keep taking the next faithful step. That is a different kind of leadership. That is a steady leadership. And I had to learn that long before I had a title. My life taught me resilience before my career demanded it. Growing up in foster care taught me something about instability. Losing my mother early taught me something about grief. Navigating systems taught me something about uncertainty. There were times in my childhood when I didn't know what was coming next. I didn't always know where stability would come from. I didn't always have the language for what I was carrying, but I learned how to keep going. I learned how to read rooms. I learned how to listen beneath the surface. Ooh, I hope you caught that. I learned how to endure pressure without letting pressure define me. Now, let me be clear. I would not wish those experiences on anyone. Pain is not something we glorify, but pain surrendered to God and shaped by wisdom can become preparation. Your scars can become sources of discernment. Your history can become a well of empathy. Your struggle can teach you how to stay present when other people are scared. That is why I say this. You lead through your scars, not your certainty. Your scars remind you that you have survived moving ground before. You've survived moving ground before. Your scars remind you that this moment may be hard, but it is not the end of the story. Your scars remind you that leadership is not about being untouched by pressure. It's about becoming trustworthy under pressure. Hope you caught that. And that leads to the first insight. You don't have to have all of the answers to be honest. In fact, honesty may be one of the most important forms of leadership in uncertain times. Early in my banking journey, I learned something that stayed with me. People don't expect perfection from leaders. They expect truth. There is a world of difference between saying everything is fine when everybody knows it is not, and saying, I don't know yet. But here is what we are doing right now. I don't know yet, but here's what we're doing right now. That kind of honesty creates psychological safety. It tells people you are not crazy for sensing the uncertainty. I see it too. And we are not going to panic. We're going to face it together. False confidence may impress people for a moment. Truth builds trust over time. And trust is the currency of leadership when certainty is limited. The second insight is this. You have to manage your energy before you manage the environment. Uncertainty amplifies whatever is already inside of you. If you are anxious, well, the room will feel it. If you are defensive, the room will absorb it. If you are scattered, the organization will become more scattered. But if you are grounded, the room can borrow some of your steadiness. That doesn't mean you never feel fear. It does not mean you never feel tired. It does not mean you never have a private moment where you say, Lord Jesus, I need help. I've had plenty of those moments. But leadership requires us to pay attention to our internal life because our internal state becomes the thermostat for the people around us, not the thermometer, the thermostat. A thermometer reads the temperature. A thermostat helps to set it. In uncertain times, leaders cannot simply mirror the anxiety in the room. We have to bring a different temperature, a calmer temperature, a clearer temperature, a more faithful temperature. That kind of steadiness does not come from pretending, it comes from practice. It comes from prayer. It comes from wise counsel. It comes from rest. It comes from remembering what is yours to carry and what belongs to God. The third insight is this. When clarity is limited, purpose becomes more important. When conditions are unpredictable, the why becomes the compass. People can handle ambiguity when they understand purpose. They can move through hard seasons when they know what matters. They can endure imperfect plans when they trust the mission. But when purpose is unclear, uncertainty becomes chaos. That is true in business. That is true in families. That is true in personal growth. That is true in faith. When you do not know every detail, return to the deeper why. I hope you caught that. Why are we here? Who are we called to serve? What kind of people are we becoming? What values must not be negotiated even under pressure? What is the next right move? Not the next perfect move, the next right move. Because sometimes that's all you get. You don't get the whole staircase. You get the next move. And that is where faith and leadership meet. Faith does not always give you the full map. Sometimes faith gives you enough light for the next move. The fourth insight is this. Steady leadership is not passive. But steady does not mean doing nothing. It does not mean being slow when urgency is required. It does not mean avoiding hard decisions. Steadiness is active. It listens carefully. It tells the truth. It names reality. It protects people where it can. It makes decisions with humility. It adjusts as new information comes in. It refuses to let fear become the strategy. That last part, it matters. Fear is a powerful emotion. It's a powerful, powerful emotion. But it is a poor strategist. Fear will make you overreact. Fear will make you under-communicate. Fear will make you control what needs to be cultivated. Fear will make you retreat when you need to engage. Faith does not remove every fear. But faith puts fear in its proper place. Fear may ride in the car, but folks, it cannot drive. Not in your life, not in your leadership, not in your next move. So here's the reframe. Uncertainty does not make you less of a leader. It reveals the leader you have been becoming. It reveals the leader you have been becoming. That moment when the answers are incomplete, the pressure is real, and people are looking around for steadiness, that is not just a test of your title. It's a revelation of your formation. It shows what has been built in you. It shows where you are still growing. It shows what needs healing. It shows what needs strengthening. That is not something to fear. That is something to pay attention to. Here's the reclaim. Your history has always prepared you for moments your resume has not. Your history has always, your history has always prepared you for moments your resume has not. There are things you have survived that taught you how to endure. There are losses that taught you compassion. There are hard lessons and hard seasons that gave you discernment. There are moments you didn't choose that still shaped your capacity to lead. Do not dismiss your story. Do not reduce your preparation to credentials. Your resume may tell people where you have worked, but your story reveals what you have carried, what you have learned, and how you have been formed. And here is the rename. You are not just leading through uncertainty. You are leading through becoming more grounded, becoming more honest, becoming more faithful, becoming more discerning, becoming the kind of leader who does not need to have every answer to offer real steadiness. So this week, I want you to sit with a few questions. Where are you pretending to be certain when honesty would build more trust? What is the room absorbing from your energy right now? What purpose do you need to return to? And what part of your story has already prepared you for the pressure you are facing? You may not have all of the answer. That's all right. You do not need all of the answers to take the next faithful step. You need a foundation. You need wisdom. You need enough humility to tell the truth. You need enough faith to keep moving. My prayer is that in whatever uncertainty you are carrying right now, you would not confuse the shifting ground around you with weakness inside you. You are still being formed. You are still being strengthened. You are still being prepared. And the next move does not have to be perfect. It just has to be faithful. Until next time, keep leading with purpose, keep walking with wisdom, and keep taking your next move with confidence. Thanks for spending time with me on The Next Move. I hope today's reflection helped you see your situation differently and reminded you that you're not stuck, you're being strengthened. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who's standing at the edge of their next move. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's ahead. For deeper reflections, tools, and guided pathways for growth, visit orvinkimbrough.com and explore the Thriver's Path. Until next time, remember, every small step taken with intention moves you closer to the life and leadership you're becoming. Let's keep moving forward together.